Welcome back. This is, of course, the ongoing Reddit AMA. This time we're taking a question from user CharmWow, who writes, I know in your video about the Federal Reserve, you talk about Bitcoin as an alternative to reserve notes. I also agree that Bitcoin seems to be the future of money. It seems to solve a lot of issues at the same time. As Andreas Antonopoulos says, it's the internet of money. How confident are you in Bitcoin or something similar to it being used as the main currency all over the world? Thank you for the question, CharmWow. Obviously, the question of what will supplant, what will replace, what will overturn the Federal Reserve System is, in many ways, even more important than the details about the Federal Reserve System itself. Once you realize that that system is a scam created by and for the benefit of the banksters, I think we understand that it needs to be replaced. The question is with what? And one of the things that I tried to do in the documentary was to open up that discussion rather than close it down. And I know that the tendency is often for people who are presenting this idea about the Federal Reserve to present their idea of what will replace it as some sort of gold standard. Excuse the pun, that cannot be questioned in any way. Here is the one thing that must replace the Federal Reserve, which I think is ludicrous. I think that the real answer to this question is not going to be one thing, because what we are fighting is a centralized system of control in which a monopoly cartel tells us that this, and only this, is the money that you must use to transact with everyone. I think if we're going to combat that effectively, we have to go the exact opposite way and open up the Pandora's box, maybe, but open up the box of currencies, complementary currencies, alternative currencies, other ways of thinking about transaction and trading. Bitcoin, obviously, one of those arrows in the quiver, but there are many other arrows. And I see some of the discussion going on in this thread talking about Bitcoin as being, for example, it's not fiat, it's not controllable by any central authority. Well, I mean, ultimately, the underlying blockchain technology can be used for any type of implementation, and as Andreas Antonopoulos points out in that recent video that I posted, or that I linked to in New World Next Week that we did recently, where he was presenting to the Senate of Canada, he started talking about how, well, you could have a cryptocurrency based on the blockchain technology that was presided over by a group of 12 central banking authorities that decide, everything to do with that currency and how it will function in the future. You could have that and ask people to adopt it. I don't see why anyone would adopt it, but you could do it. The point is that the blockchain technology is almost infinitely malleable, and it's a question of what you do on top of it. So not even Bitcoin itself is the ultimate implementation of that technology. It's just one of the many, and there are other ideas and other ways of thinking about cryptocurrencies. So I think even within the cryptocurrency sphere, Bitcoin is just one potential solution, and I think, again, it might be too limiting to try to put all of our eggs in that basket. So basically, my response is not pleasing to anyone, not pleasing to the gold bugs, not appeasing to the Bitcoin to the moon people, or the Dogecoin people, or the Let's local exchange trading system people, or whatever groups that might be out there, the government fiat currency issued by the government as debt-free notes. Those people, they all hate basically what I'm saying, but the point, I think, is ultimately to expand our idea of money and transactions, not to limit it. I've done a lot of work on this in the past, so I'll put them in the response to your question so that you can start following some of those links to some of the ideas. And again, I think it's not one idea that's going to counteract this system that relies on the one idea of money. It's going to be many different ideas, and it's not going to happen all at once. I don't believe in that pipe dream. I think it'll happen by us choosing to adopt bits and pieces here and there and working around the system more and more and more until eventually the system is replaced. And I think that's the ideal of what we're striving towards. And it's a question of whether we every single one of us, will devote ourselves to actually voting with our time and energy and dollars to actually engage and participate in alternative communities based on alternative forms of currency. I think that's going to be the solution in the long run.